How do I not only know so many different types of flowers, but how do I choose which one to use for my illustrations? Welcome to the second episode in my series Q&A with Suzen's Art Shop, where you guys ask me questions and I answer them. The reason I know so many flowers is due to my parents. Ever since I was a child, my mother has been obsessed with plants and flowers, especially around the home and in her garden. Thanks to my mother's upbringing, she lived out in the country, which meant she was always out in nature, either planting, playing, cutting, it didn't matter. She was always with plants or flowers of some kind. And then on the flip side, my father grew up in the city, but his mother really loved plants, and she was a very succulent kind of person. So there were succulents and ivy all over the place. So when my parents eventually had me and my siblings, that meant that we always had a plot of land somewhere where we could garden, whether it was a community garden or we had like a tiny outdoor space somewhere. It didn't matter how much space we had. We were always gardening something, which meant because I was always out in nature in some way, shape, or form, my mother taught me about all of the good plants to be around and all of the bad plants to be around. And then due to the fact that my mother was more of like an outdoors kind of person, and that is something that we all picked up as kids, she found us a nature-based school, so we were always outside and they were always teaching us about plants as well. So I have a very vast knowledge of plants, even if I can't remember their names off the top of my head. Now that being said, how do I decide what types of flowers or plants to use in my illustrations? To be honest, the way that I go about it varies depending on what I'm drawing and what my idea behind it is. Sometimes I have an idea going into an illustration, whether it's I saw an idea through Pinterest or out in nature, therefore I have a specific plant in mind because that's what inspired me. Sometimes I go into a drawing thinking this is the type of mood that I'm going for, therefore that is the type of flower that I want, whether it's the specific color or the meaning behind the flower itself, or I want to find something that is specifically relevant to the piece. For example, with the orca illustration, I was looking for flowers that meant orca or were specific to the cultures that I was looking up myths for, which is why I chose the tulip orca for that drawing, because it's specifically correlated with not only the orca but also with the mythology behind it. And in other cases, sometimes I don't know the flower that I'm going to be adding, only that I want to add something. And in the end, what holds up my illustrations from being finished is the fact that I don't know what kind of plants that I want to use, whether it's a succulent, some kind of mushroom, or flowers. So if at any point you notice while following any of my pages that you haven't seen an update about a specific drawing, it's literally because I don't know what kind of plant or detail to add. So that's also a fun little piece of information for y'all. I know this next piece that I'm going to share wasn't a part of the original question from this commenter, but I also wanted to share that my art probably wouldn't be the same if I hadn't had the upbringing that I did. For those of you who've been following for a while, you've noticed that almost every single drawing that I've ever created, including the stickers that are available on my shop, have some kind of plant in them. And anytime I create something that doesn't have any kind of plant in it, it feels like it's missing something because of the fact that nature has been such a big part of my upbringing. Despite the fact that I've lived in the city my entire life, we were always at this little local walk-in park that was down the street from my house. And if I wasn't with my family in that park, I was at school in that park because we were literally seconds away from the main entrance. So I spent my entire childhood and most of my early adulthood in that park. And yet, despite all of this and my love for nature, I don't have a green thumb. I am so terrible at taking care of plants. It's actually laughable. The only thing that I seem to be able to take care of is succulents, specifically a snake plant that my mother gave me, despite the fact that even though I've had it for almost a year and a half, it hasn't grown all that much. And before any of you ask in the comments, yes, I do know for a fact that it's a live plant because I have repotted it, and if I forget to water it, it does start to curl in on itself. So it is real. It's not like my mom gave me a fake plant as a joke. Now, if it had been my father that gifted me the plant, I would question if it was real or not because we like to play pranks, but because it's my mom, I know that she would never do that to me. She would tell me it was fake first. And finally, the last question that was within this comment was, what type of gold pens do I use whenever I'm drawing? There are 3 different types of pens that I use pretty regularly when it comes to the gold ink. If I'm covering large areas of my drawing, I use the Faber-Castell 1.5 gold pen. If I'm outlining a good portion of my illustration, I use the Jelly Roll metallic pen. And for the smaller details like adding stars or just going over small portions of leaves and flowers, I use the Pilot G27 pen. All 3 of these pens are very easy to find and inexpensive. You can find them at most craft stores and online. If you're curious to know what other types of art supplies that I use on a daily basis or which ones I believe believe are worth looking into, I usually do some kind of review video on my platforms. I do currently have a couple available talking about the different types of line art that I use and my most used art supplies on a regular basis. If you'd like me to do some more updated videos about some of the newer stuff that I found, definitely let me know. And if you have other questions you would like me to answer, be sure to leave them in the comment section of this video.